The GOP's math is not mathing. Today's Fresh Hill is the new poll released by the GOP Sutherland Institute accidentally told the truth. This morning, a poll was released around all of the redistricting drama, and it was released by the Sutherland Institute. Now, if you are lucky enough to not know who the Sutherland Institute is, I'm about to burst your bubble. Everyone from actual GOP leaders to Democrats to the Salt Lake Tribune has noted that they are much more a propaganda machine for Republican legislation and the Republican legislature than they are a think tank. So they commissioned this poll clearly to try and prove that Utahns do not want independent commissions and they want the legislature to have control over drawing congressional boundaries. But the funny thing is, if you dig even like in a scratch deep into the numbers here, they told the absolute opposite of that. But they really did some spinning on this. So dizzy. The Sutherland Institute has vertigo.
The first question that they asked on the poll was, who should decide the boundaries for congressional districts? They gave people a whole list, and in their telling or reframing of the results of this poll, they said that 71% of people say an elected body or an elected official should be the people that draw the congressional boundaries, which is hilarious. And then they go on to say, compared to 8% of people who say judges should draw the congressional boundaries. So obviously the judge is out of line in having chosen a map, and nobody agrees. Prop 4 must be the problem. Here's what's really fun. One, they didn't ask if people wanted an independent commission to draw the map. And then they did some really fun math by adding up all the responses of all of the elected officials, including county elected officials, and anything that is an elected body of the people. Could very well mean an elected body for an independent redistricting commission. So you might say that if people wanted to answer an independent commission, they answered an elected body. And then they spun that to say that this is a problem with judicial control, which it's not. The only reason the judge had to pick a map was that the legislature didn't abide by the commission that was in place. If I were to draw a conclusion, I would say the actual results are that 21% of people believe that state-level elected officials should draw the boundaries. Everyone else said, no, please give us some sort of check on the legislature.
The next question that they asked on this poll is, should the legislature have a role in redrawing maps? Great question. No. Now, the fun part about this question is that they gave people two options, some role or no role for the legislature. But they say that 60% of people said that they should have some role, some meaning that's what we have now with Prop 4, they have some role. And 40% said no role, which is actually pretty incredible that 40% of people are like, no, they shouldn't touch it. But we're not going to talk about that from the Sutherland Institute.
Okay, and here's my favorite part. The next chart asks people, what role should the legislature have in redrawing district maps? So they claim 45% of the respondents say that they want the legislature to choose between a set of maps drawn by a commission. 40% of people say they want the legislature to work with the advisory commission. Then 15% of people say the legislature should have sole authority. First of all, them framing this as a win already is insane. But on top of that, in the paragraph hidden in there says, among the group of voters that think that the legislature should have some role. So what they did is they took this 60%, I'm doing some sticky nonsense, and then they broke it down. This is all just this part. So to do the math for you, since they clearly didn't want to, 45% of 60% is 27%. 27% of voters, of everyone in the poll, believe that the commission should send the maps to the legislature and the legislature should vote on them. 40% of 60% is 24%, which means 24% said that there should be an advisory commission. And then that last 15% that think that the legislature should have sole control is actually only 9%. So if you do all of the math, this means that 91% of voters believe that the legislature should either have no role at all in drawing the maps or an independent commission to draw the maps. This is not a win for them. This is crazy.
So as with everything in politics, it is very important to ask questions about who is paying for these things and what are their motivations. If you just saw the headlines or the article or just saw one of these charts, you would come to a very different conclusion. But the second you start digging into the numbers, you see the real truth of this situation. So don't be fooled by these people. Don't let the Sutherland Institute pull one over on you. You are right. We are in the right, and we're going to keep fighting for that.